After 4 months of testimony and deliberation, we finally have a verdict in the trial of Jodi Arias, and we got her, I guess. She was found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Travis Alexander back in June 2008. Now, we're still waiting. It's going to be another couple days, another couple weeks until we know exactly what's going to happen to her, but that's what's been released, at least so far. What's your initial reaction to the verdict?
Well, my initial reaction is that her defense put up basically no information at all as to trying to prove with even any sort of shred of evidence that she was actually domestically abused by her now ex-boyfriend. So I think whether you agree with this sentence or not, and whether she was actually domestically abused or not, maybe we'll never know, but whether she was or not, I think this still kind of spells trouble for women and future victims of domestic abuse, because it's kind of
fight back, you're saying?
The fact that she murdered him and is convicted guilty, because it's kind of either perpetuating the stereotype that women lie, and either she wasn't domestically abused and she lied about it, or that men can get away with domestic abuse, at least in the court system.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he didn't really get away with it.
Well, that's why I said in the court system.
Yeah, so if you haven't been following this, and that'll be the running theme, at least from my commentary through the course of the story, not following it, Travis Alexander was stabbed nearly 30 times. He was shot in the head, and also his throat was slit from ear to ear. One of the relatives of Travis Alexander said that he was killed 3 times over, and I think that seems like kind of an understatement at this point. So she has been found guilty. I would like to say at this point, don't know why I should care. I mean, for the sake of the family of Travis Alexander, obviously they want her to be found guilty of something. But I have to say that I've never been a fan of these sort of celebrity trials. And I understand she wasn't a celebrity before the trial started, but certainly over the course of the near constant 24-hour coverage on HLN and other networks, not to mention today, where it's on every single mainstream network.
Right here, right now.
Yeah, that too, but we're just like, oh God, who said what? What's gonna happen next time? What does she think? Was she crying? Was she not crying? Right. No, I wanna say that I don't like that as a nation, we will arbitrarily choose one criminal and one kidnapping, and that's what we're gonna focus on for 3 months or 6 months, and that's what's important. And I will expound on why I think that's dangerous for the country, but do you not agree? You've said that you weren't personally all that interested in the trial.
No, I wasn't personally interested in this case either, and I'm not with, like you said, these kind of celebrity trials that get blown out of proportion like this. I do think it's gonna be a little bit of an interesting statement on the death penalty, and states choosing to, whether they choose to give that to her or not. I think Arizona right now has only 3 women on death row, and the last woman to actually be executed was back in 1930. So whether or not she receives the death penalty, it's going to be more like life in prison, because she'll likely just sit on death row forever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's some interesting commentary on that. As to the celebrity nature of the case, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, but the fact that we chose this one, and I understand why we focused on this one, because she's kind of attractive. It was a very sexy story. It involved sex in great detail. Like that early on in the testimony, that's what everyone was focusing on. Like, how did they do it? Where did they do it? How many times did they do it? And obviously the amount of violence that went into the killing of Travis Alexander was by any measure excessive, I think. And so I understand why that makes the story a little bit more exciting, a little bit more, I guess, vimsy, going by the words of Cenk Uygur. But I'm not a fan of this. And the reason for that is that I think there are very important stories every single day that people should be following. And when I say that, I'm not saying that you can't have fun stories. You can't have distractions, basically. But this is an odd amalgamation of both of those.
Well, and I wouldn't call it really fun. Like you said, it's sexy.
No, I'm not saying it's fun.
Sex,
I'm saying we will talk on this show about fun stories that aren't as important as what's going to happen in Syria. Like, you can have the Syria and you can have the fun, but I don't like the stories that pretend to be one but are really the other. Like, I think that this isn't a fun story, as you say, but people are following it as entertainment. Cenk Uygur said it's just real reality TV. Yeah,
well, people want Desperate Housewives in real life. That's what they want. Think how we latched onto the David Petraeus scandal back when that happened. That had all the elements too. It had, the military, the sex, the affair. It had it all, and so that's just what our country does. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's going to stop.
Yeah, I will play devil's advocate. I was trying to research. I typed into Google, why should I care about? And Jodi Arias came up. That was one of the first ones. So I guess there's someone on my side at least.
Followed by Kim Kardashian was the next one.
Oh yeah, totally. And the one explanation of why we should care that I guess makes sense is for people who are shocked by the level of violence, and they kind of want some I don't know if consolation or closure, but they want to understand the mind of the criminal, and I totally understand that. And maybe they're following the proceedings because they think they'll get some sort of look into the inner workings of a criminal mind. But I got news for you. Don't follow this case. Buy a book on the psychology of criminals, and you'll learn way more. It'll take maybe a long weekend to read. I think that in the end, you'll be better off.